Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, your daily yoga podcast. I just changed that today. Your daily yoga podcast. With your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kastuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Wisdom of the Sages. And it's, what day is it today?
Tuesday.
I was like, Friday? Is it Friday already? It's Tuesday. We had such a big weekend last weekend that I skipped the entire week. How are you, Kastuba?
I'm doing good, Raghunath.
Good. Everything is cheery. It was so fun having everybody coming over and doing work at the farm, feeling connected with our community. We have such a nice Zoom community that we sometimes just only meet. Some of these people we've only met. I see them every day. We've only met them on Zoom. But some people, it's great when we have these get-togethers, either Seva weekends or, Wisdom of the Sages retreats. I'm excited to meet more and more people. And we had an in-live Seva day last week at the farm. And it was just beautiful hanging out with these people and seeing their evolution over the years. We actually changed. This stuff really works. This is why we get into yoga in the first place. We want some type of transformation. Even if it's as trite as something like lower back pain, but getting together really to transform the consciousness. This is where the yoga system is going, and happy to be a part of it.
Okay.
Any announcements, Mara, before I get into my nugget?
Yep. Bhakti recovery group meetings today. The men meet at 11 a.m. and the women meet at 2 p.m. And Ariel Castillo is offering an asana class for Patreon members right after the show this morning.
Bhakti recovery group. It's a Bhakti recovery. It's like a Bhakti 12 steps program. If you're new to it, check it out. If recovery is your thing, what a great way. Instead of having an ambiguous conception of a higher power, we have sweet baby Krishna as our higher power.
Sweet baby Krishna, what's going on with that, Raghunath?
You know what? I've been going to, I was on a Sweet Baby Krishna marathon. For Patreon members, I do this Sweet Baby Krishna class, and it is completely random when I do it. But I was on a marathon because I was going to Gopal's house every day in the evening time. And I was just reading to him. Gopal's got cancer and he's having a spiritual awakening in the midst of great, material tragedy. He's like shedding his false ego, and it's sort of beautiful to be with him. But lately I've just been like driving by his house and just going there at random times. Like yesterday, just spent the afternoon there with him, and we read a little bit and we eat together and share realizations. So I haven't been going on a regular time, so I can't do Sweet Baby Krishna, but I'm trying to figure it out when I can do it for the community. So please hold, and we'll try to do it, and we try to mix it up. Sometimes we'll kirtan there for him, and You're missing Sweet Baby Krishna? You're missing a little
Well,
sweet.
I know the people. I know it's a favorite of the people.
It is. People dig it. It's fun. We sit around in the evening time, wrap up our evening, and read Krishna Leela. It's the way to wind down your evening. But I'll get back on the horse.
Okay.
Alrighty. You ready for a nugget? Listen, we're looking for Morrissey nuggets, punk rock nuggets, rock and roll nuggets. Email them to Wisdom of the Sages. What is it? What's our
108 at gmail.com.
Wisdom of the Sages, 108 at gmail.com. Mara will see, is this spiritual enough to make it for a nugget? We want rock and roll, punk rock, hardcore, or Morrissey nuggets. Instead, we're stuck with the old Spindler himself. No, I'm just
Why?
kidding.
Why this
David Thoreau.
negativity towards?
It's not negativity. I was just hoping we're going to have rock and roll week.
What you call him a spindler? I don't even know what that means. What is it?
It's just, I don't know.
The old spindler himself? I mean, what? Why? This is a good one. This is important, and this is a connection. And, you know, I've been talking about my Oxford studies, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're Oxford. Yes. Mr. Yes, Mr. Peanut. Continue.
Yeah.
You've been studying at Oxford, reading 5 hours a day,
It
hanging out with the.
I was in my Oxford studies this past week. It was mentioned that you know, like, what are validations for like spiritual truth? You know.
Yeah.
And one of them, you know, one potential one is that if something's true, we would expect to find it in many places. You know, it should be arising. It's not something that we just made up, but because it's true, you see it, this idea popping up in different places, you know?
Yeah.
Different people are discovering it in different ways. And so here in this nugget from Henry David Thoreau, I think, you know, sure, he was dabbling in Bhagavad Gita and so on, but I don't think he had any kind of lengthy kind of yogic training or anything like that. But there's a yogic principle that comes out very clearly in what he says right here. That's an important one. And I think it's something that he just realized through his own introspection and practice.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. As a single footstep will not make a path on the earth, so a single thought will not make a pathway in the mind. To make a deep physical path, we walk again and again and again. To make a deep mental path, we must think over and over the kind of thoughts we wish to dominate our lives. Boom.
Boom. That's a good
Boom,
one.
boom,
That's
boom,
a
boom.
good
Drop
one.
that, Mike. It is a great thing. And that's, what do you think when you're ever like chant japa? Not you, of course. Ever chant japa? It's like, this is getting monotonous. It's the same mantra again and again and again and again. Yeah. Yes, it is. It's the same damn thing again and again and again, until the mind starts to shift. Then you're sitting in kirtan. It's the same song. It's the same song. It's the same melody every day. The same words every day. And then all of a sudden, things start to sort of. You ever remember those things in the 90s where you look at a crazy, you know, you can't even understand. It just looks like some ridiculous piece of art. And then if you stare at it long enough, it just sort of pops and it becomes like a cat.
Op art or something like that, optical art or something like that.
I don't, Mara. You know what I'm talking about? You were around in the 90s, Mara? Back when you were listening to the Beastie Boys.
Magic Eye.
Magic Eye.
Yeah.
That was the other crazy 90s, Mara. The Magic Eye, yes. So that's Bhakti, sort of like that. I'm sitting there doing my regular practice. Also, we have that with our physical practice sometimes, but we have that with our pranayama practice. We definitely have it with the sound practice, this mantra practice, be it in japa or kirtan. It comes off as a cultural folk song or some, interesting type of sonic meditation. And then all of a sudden these things pop and they change the heart. And it's by the regular repeating of these things that he starts to make, what does he call it? A mental path. A mental path, right?
Yeah. It's funny because we don't really do this in our world so much. Maybe you do a little upstate, but like you create a pathway, right? It's like kind of like all the pathways are kind of already made up in our world, But like if you lived in the woods, and you had to get from, to the lake back home, whatever, you just kind of keep walking the same way over and over and over, and eventually a path develops.
You just see like there's deer paths, if you go in the forest, there's deer paths, and it's definitely not made by humans, but it's definitely a pathway that they use on a regular basis. We also do this. Ananda says, we do this with our body as well. She's a strength trainer.
What is
with
it?
Our physical body, right? People do it with jogging. People do it with music as they study music. It just becomes second nature after a while. And so we're redoing this with our most subtle self, our mind, our mind intelligence, the training of the ego. And this is the big shift we're looking for in our spiritual life.
Well, and this, it's if you really want to understand a lot about the mind, a great place to turn is Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, right? Which kind of dig into it in his own, kind of unique. His categorization of yogic thought is really tight there, And he opens up. He opens up his Yoga Sutras by describing that yoga it means that if you can still this particular path of yoga, he's describing one path of yoga, right, which is Ashtanga yoga. And he's saying that if you can still the mind, hold it on one point, then you can experience your own true nature, which will be a really wonderful, divine kind of experience. And
Hopefully.
so, no, definitely. And so, then he begins to describe the varieties of the ways that the mind moves, right? The vrittis, the different patterns of thought. And then he says that these, he categorizes them all, speaks about them a bit, and then he said that there's a way to still these. He says that they can be stilled by abhyasa and vairagya, by practice and by dispassion, or detachment, you could say, practice and detachment. And then he begins to define those two. And he what I wanted to bring up today is how he defines practice, right? He says the vrittis, these changing states of mind, are stilled by practice and detachment. And from these, in others, from those two, now he's going to define each. Practice is the effort to be fixed in the concentrating the mind. And then he goes on to define specifically what that looks like, And there's a commentator, if you read Edwin Bryant's Yoga Sutras. It's
the best one. If you're thinking about reading the Yoga Sutras, this is our favorite one, Edwin Bryant's.
It's a bit heady, it's a bit dense and all that. But if you want like a book that really breaks down, because what he does is he goes back to, he's not just whipping out, hey, this is what I think about it. It's
this is my feeling. This is my feeling when I read this. This is what it means to me. He
goes to these traditional commentators that go back many centuries. So one of them is Ramananda Saraswati. And after this sutra where he says, from these two, practice and dispassion, practice is the effort to be fixed and concentrating the mind. And then he quotes Ramananda Saraswati. He says Ramananda Saraswati introduces the next sutra by wondering how practice can ever achieve steadfastness, since it is constantly disturbed by rājasic and tāmasic saṁskāras, distracting memories, and tendencies inherited from time immemorial, a question with which aspiring yogis can surely relate.
Kastuba.
Yeah.
Can I jump in here? I was just thinking for because we have this massive a big part of our community is this Bhakti recovery community. Can you read that last sentence, the saṁskāras part?
Well, it was only one sentence that I read, so I'll read it again.
Oh, it was one long sentence? Well,
yeah. He introduces the next sutra by wondering how can practice, here's the question, how can my yoga practice, how can my mental disciplines, how can practice ever achieve steadfastness? How will it last? How will it, sink in deep? Since it is constantly disturbed by, he's going to give three things: rājasic and tāmasic saṁskāras.
Right, that's passion and ignorance, saṁskāras that are sort of like dented into your mind,
deeply embedded in the subconscious mind.
Sure.
Right. These are like seeds that are sitting in the subconscious mind that will eventually rise to the surface of our awareness, based on all the experiences that we've had in this lifetime and many past lifetimes. These saṁskāras, these impressions are there, they're latent.
That's the part I want you to say. So it's like these bad habits we have. Sometimes you think, I'm not attracted to meditation, kirtan. I'm not attracted to eating vegetarian or giving up alcohol or meat. Why? It's because we've been practicing going against these spiritual traditions, not in this lifetime, not just because I was brought up by Italian parents, but for lifetimes, right? I've been practicing a dharma, not for this life alone, lifetimes. It's been embedded in if you struggle with controlling the senses, controlling the mind, controlling your tongue, controlling the crazy stuff that comes out of your mouth. That's understandable. It's lifetimes of bad practicing. And so how do you undo that? You just start today. Today, I'm going to practice sitting. I mean, I've been chanting the Maha Mantra on beads, for 35 years. Same thing today. My mind was all over the place. I'm walking around the house, chanting, picking up this, got your bead bag on, trying to clean the sink area. It's like, come on, Raghuram, just sit down and shut up with your mind and get serious. And it's just by this practice, we start to undo the bad practice. And this is what you do in a 12-step recovery group or the Bhakti recovery group. We've got a bad practice. We're addicted to wine or whiskey or narcotics or sex or spending or eating. And what we do is what Patanjali is saying, we regulate it. Sometimes we have to go cold turkey from it. Sometimes we have to regulate it. You know what? I don't eat after 6 o'clock at night. Boom. Or if I'm going to drink, I drink 1 beer a week. I've been drinking one beer every day. I'm talking about people who really can't give up something, then they have to regulate it. Sometimes you have to go cold turkey with it, but sometimes it's so overwhelming for the consciousness. People can't do it. It's part of their life. It's part of their social life. It's part of their friendship. It's part of their family. So then you have to figure out how to regulate it. And once you regulate it, you start to control it instead of it controlling you. Who wants the substance to control us? And after you regulate it, then the noose that has been wrapped tightly around my neck of addiction starts to loosen and you experience some freedom. And we see that with the people, the stalwarts from recovery. It's that in that regulation that they develop freedom from, I want to say the addiction, but it's really freedom from the body and the mind and the senses. This, I think Patanjali was the original sponsor for the 12-step program,
Okay. Well, again, or even Ramananda Saraswati, right? So Ramananda Saraswati, again, he said, it's saying that the mind it's like a force in the sense, if you just walk through a path one time, it's not going to last, right? You're not going to create a path that way. It's going to take repetition. So repetition becomes an important element in spiritual practice and yoga. So he says, right, that the mind is constantly disturbed by rājasic and tāmasic saṁskāras, distracting memories.
Got those.
And tendencies inherited from, and it's translated as inherited from time immemorial, right? So
right.
Like,
you don't have bad habits from this lifetime. You've got lifetimes of bad habits. I love that one. Was it distracting memories?
Distracting memories.
I've got distracting problematic memories.
I've noticed that. Right?
You know what I mean? That go back for years.
No, I do too.
Sometimes I just lay in bed and I just think of distracting memories.
Distracting memories and tendencies inherited from time immemorial. So there's the question. So like, how does it become firmly rooted? How does the yogi achieve steadfastness? How do we actually not just like play with our mind for a moment in yoga practice or meditation practice, but how does the mind become reshaped? How does the mind become changed so that we're not a prisoner of it anymore? So the following, so the previous two sutras are saying, okay, you can do this through practice and detachment. And then he defines practice, right? The effort to be fixed in concentrating the mind. That's I'm going to make an effort, right? It's going to take effort, repeated effort, to kind of reshape that mind. And then the next sutra is really revealing, and this is a sutra that gives us a big clue, or not clue, but it really shares an understanding of what practice means, how it works, right? So the next sutra is Satu Dirgha Kala Nairantarya Satkara Sevato Drita Bhumi. Okay, you ready, Marga? So it says that it's describing how one's practice needs to be. What are the qualities of one's practice that will make it become steadfast, or that will make... Here it uses the term Drita Bhumi. Bhumi means?
Earth.
The earth. So, or here it means like the ground, right? And Dridha? Like a
fixed.
Yeah. Well, here like firm, right? So like this is what gets it firmly fixed in the ground, right? Firmly rooted. That are, you know, that what we want to invest in the mind through repeated practice becomes firmly rooted in that ground. It's not just going to get blown over by the first distracting thought that comes along, right?
It's deep rooted.
Deep rooted. So dirgha means prolonged, and kala means a period of time. So at first it says dirgha kala, that this practice that you're going to do with your mind, you're going to have to do it over a long period of time, right? And nairantarya, uninterruptedly, meaning like regularly. It's the kind of thing daily, right? A daily practice that you keep doing. You don't get really into it for a week and then drop it for a week and then pick it up for a few days. And, you know, it's like steadily, right? Over a long, dirgha kala, for a long period of time, in nairantarya, uninterruptedly. These are really practical ideas, that this is how the yoga practice works. And then it says something else. It says satkara, which means reverence, and asevita, attended to, or a cultivated practice. You could say, you know, I assume that the seva there has something to, you know, it's something with devotion. It's translated sometimes, right? With devotion. So practice becomes firmly established when it has been cultivated uninterruptedly and with devotion over a prolonged period of time. Right? That's how we're going to take this crazy mind of ours, you know, and actually have some lasting change, so that we can have peace of mind and that we can actually deeply meditate and become different people. You know?
So this is right, that this is how anybody, even of the material sphere, wants to become a virtuoso, or what's the word, a peak performance athlete. You just do it. You're just completely focused on this one thing. And this is the same thing in a spiritual way. We got to become
with a steadiness, right? With a steadiness.
And the beautiful addition is this, in this mood of like reverence and service, because it's not just by our steadiness. It's also by the mercy that we're getting led into this. What's going on is we're having a love affair with divinity. And it's not a one-way street. It's not just because I love you, or I'm focused, I'm determined, and I'm austere, It's actually, there is something happening with the heart that's changing as well. And therefore, because we're in love with a being, a divine, spiritual, supreme personality of Godhead being, then there's reciprocation. And then the world starts to change. Then our goggles change. Our view of the world changes.
Yeah, you know, that word is being translated as devotion. I'm not sure if that's Patanjali's, like he may mean devoted to the practice, but certainly from our Bhakti perspective, everything you're saying becomes especially meaningful, you know.
Sure.
We also recognize that I am weak and my mind is very powerful, right? And so I'm really kind of desperately calling for help on this one, you know.
Right.
Yeah. But, you know, like you're saying, it's just like, say you want to build muscle, right? It's not that you lift 10,000 pounds one time, but you lift a few pounds 10,000 times, right? It's something that, you know, you like that?
I do like that.
But yeah, but that's how it works. So we have these unconscious habits in our mind, and we just allow them to dominate the mind and control the mind and be the mind. And what we're trying to do through yoga is we're trying to replace those unconscious patterns in the mind with very conscious patterns. And so I like the way that Henry David Thoreau said it, to make a deep mental path, right? We must think over and over the kind of thoughts we wish to dominate our lives. And so that's what sadhana looks like, right? That's what a regular spiritual practice looks like, is that I'm going to take this beautiful thought and I'm going to think it again and again and again until it becomes habituated, until it becomes unproblematic, until, you see, because again, our theory, this yoga theory, or bhakti yoga theory, is that the nature of myself is beautiful and devotional. but my mind has been twisted and warped by all of its experience. And so if I can begin to reshape the mind so that it's harmonious with the nature of the self, then there's a yoga, right? Then there's a union between the mind and the self. There's no longer a tension between them. And if we achieve that, we'll feel so good. Actually, when that tension is no longer there, we're gonna feel so good. So anyways, that's once I'll tell you, I don't know if I ever shared this with you, Raghu.
Tell me.
But once I was attending a discussion by a Vaishnava.
At Oxford?
It was not at Oxford.
Okay.
I've never been to, actually I have been to Oxford briefly once, but it was by a Vaishnava from another sampradaya, from another lineage.
Okay.
And we were introduced before the talk, and I was kind of sitting up near the front. And I'd never met him before. He had I want to preface this by saying eventually we became good friends, you as well. But he in his talk, he's from a Vaishnava Sampradaya, from a Bhakti lineage that's very similar to ours, right? Very similar to ours. But in his talk, he I counted 11 times because it was happening. He was like kind of subtly or not so subtly criticizing our sampradaya.
The old my church is better than your church.
I mean, what his motive was, because I really like this person and in many ways respect this person, but he was doing something. And although like I'm pretty sure practically no one in that audience could understand it. But because I've been practicing in this lineage for so many, it was very clear to me every statement that he was making, exactly how it was aimed in a particular way.
I remember this.
Yeah, and one of the things that they mentioned was the idea about in our lineage, it's very common, and it's a very standard part of the practice to chant japa. Right? Take a vow of how many of these mantras I'll chant daily. Right? And he kind of criticized that by saying, it's like better to just chant it one time, like purely, than to just keep chanting it, on and on and on without any kind of deep concentration or devotion. Right? And I'm not entirely against it, and I understand that point. But there's another point here too. Right, is that even though I may be chanting it daily without focused attention and so on, but by repetition, it begins to create a pathway in the mind. It may take a long time, but it's powerful.
Really
it's
does.
Effective, and therefore in all yoga practice, the repetition is there, whether it's asana, or any type of meditation, repetition becomes a really essential part of it. It's just it's a very calculated, well-informed way of addressing the problem of the mind. It takes repetition. Anyway, I think Henry David Thoreau was sitting there in his little cabin, and I think he got it, I think he got it.
I wonder if he took birth again. Maybe he's a devotee now. Reading the Bhagavad Gita, something shifted. You never know where these people went.
Anything's possible. You could be Henry David Thoreau.
I could be.
I very well could be.
Maybe I am. But I do love this concept that it's not like we're just getting devoted to a sport or a workout. I'm getting devoted to a being. And that being also has an unlimited ability to help me. It's not like I'm just controlling my senses. This unlimited supreme being is assisting me in the control of my senses because I'm engaging my senses in the service to this supreme being. And that's what real love is all about anyway. And that's why love is much more magical than becoming even a great piano player, a great, a peak performance runner, an ultra marathoner, triathlon, triathlon gold medalist. Or it's there. When we actually reach that virtuoso state within Bhakti, it's like just like a deep love that transforms our hearts. And you have help. It's beyond a coach. you are actually deeply falling in love. And it's what it's doing is lifting you right out of this crazy world while you're in this world. Alrighty.
Thank you, Roga. That's why we listen to.
Thank
that's
you.
why we gather every day to hear Bhagavatam, right?
I know. That's why this whole little wisdom of the sages thing is so addictive.
It works.
It really works. It works if you work it, and you're worth it.
It's part of a theory that I had for a long time, which was like, like say at the Bhakti Center, there were a lot of times I was part of like kind of like a weekly study kind of thing,
Yeah. Oh,
And
this is what you said in the beginning
Yeah.
of Wisdom of the Sages.
Yeah, it's
Share
not
it with
that-
everybody.
Well,
It's important.
in other words, I took part in a lot. It's kind of a natural way to schedule things or something. Okay, every Friday night
Thursday.
we're gonna get together and we're gonna study this or something. But the fact is, if you study weekly, by the time you come around the next week, it's like your mind has just let go of it for so long.
Yeah.
That a couple days in, you're not even thinking about it anymore. Then you come back the next week and you just got to refresh yourself just to get back up to speed.
Yeah. It's like if you're doing
And-
jujitsu once a week, it just you
Yeah,
can't take it all in. You need a couple times a week, 3 times a week. But it's the more you do it on a regular basis. So you're saying this was the success you felt in the beginning of Wisdom of the Sages?
Well, just like we chant every morning, Nityam Bhagavata Sevya. That Nityam means like very regularly or steadily, like constantly, like daily, right? This daily practice is you take something from weekly and you boost it up to daily. Now you're getting somewhere, right? And we found that like people that have had very little contact, even no contact with Bhakti, they start listening to the show every day, hearing Bhagavatam every day, and they say, this is changing my life, right? It's actually really having a deep effect on me.
Well, those regular things a daily also, it brings you to sattva. You become regulated. Like, for example, the other day when me and Mara went to the emergency room with the dog, it was, it threw my whole day off just because I had to sleep in.
next day, you mean?
Woke up for the show, but I had to go back to bed, and my japa got thrown off, my puja got thrown off, everything got thrown off. So
How late
when
were
we
you at the
I ended up getting back home at 2 a.m. I fell asleep, and then we had the show at and wake up at 5 to get ready for the show. So anyway, my point is, it forces you for this accountability to show up on a regular basis and hear and chant, and you want to regulate your life, and therefore regulation is part of sattvic living, which is part of a peaceful mind, which is part of your happiness. So yeah, naturally you want to get out of tamas and rajas, or this lower gunas. How are we talking about that? How are we on that? I went off on a dog squirrel. Now I got lost.
because it broke your regulation. And
Okay.
Yeah,
right,
Yeah.
we're talking about
Say,
studying
yeah.
every day and so on, but it becoming firmly rooted that way. So
All right.
regulation.
Regulation. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam. What do you say? Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes. With the torchlight of knowledge, I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 18, Text 5. Was that right, Mara?
Text 8.
Text 8.
Yes,
I was really
good.
confident today.
Yeah,
I was like,
you know,
today I got it.
You're just playing the odds, you know.
Oh, Mara. All right. You ready to dive
So
into this?
Earth is speaking to the king. The
Earth
Earth
is
has
getting
been
milked.
accused and threatened that you're not providing. Everyone else is doing their part. The in the cosmic order, the earthlings are playing their role, but you don't seem to be playing your role, which is providing food and grains for everyone. So the king is threatening the earth, and the earth is responding now.
Ground control to Major Tom.
There was no connection there.
There was no earthlings. I was thinking. Anyway, what about, did David Bowie have spiritual lyrics?
David Bowie, I mean, he was a deep thinker for sure, and I'd imagine. You see, this is my point, Raghunath. I would rather dig out a nugget from like a person that's not writing a song that's directly connected to what we're presenting, but someone that found some truth that's parallel. To me, that's
Sure.
that's going to be a more meaningful nugget.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Instead of like Bob Dylan, you got to serve somebody. I get
that's
that.
my point. Yes, and so yeah, man, I would be interested to dig into some Bowie lyrics and see what he's got, because I'd imagine, I've heard some quotes from him that were very interesting.
Tom Essling on the message board said his last album is deep as he was dealing with dying.
What an artist he was. I mean, just the fact that like this guy was not only produced like throughout his whole life steadily, but then he created a record to release after he died. That was like his message to the world. Yeah, like he had he created this whole record, and he released it. Like I don't know if it was like the day he died, but like immediately after he died, that was kind of like his final swan song. Amazing. Yeah,
I didn't listen to.
I would be interested to dig into his stuff and see what we find.
David Lou Cragg says David Bowie was deeply into Buddhism and Western esotericism.
Okay.
And Jiva G Live Coaching says you forgot country music.
I mean, I suppose we forgot a lot of different kind of music.
We forgot. There's a lot of musical genres we forgot. Yes. Okay. Let's get back on the Bhagavatam.
That's right.
Okay. Due to being stocked for a very long time, all the grain seeds within me have certainly deteriorated. This is the earth speaking. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you should immediately arrange to take these seeds out by the standard process, which is recommended by the acharyas or the shastras. Shastra means sacred literature. Acharya means like previous masters.
Also from my Oxford studies, Raghunath.
Tell me.
But it's just.
Can I go to Oxford too, Professor?
I don't know. It's very exclusive. I'm not sure, but it's possible. But I was reading one article where it's just describing the avatars of Lord Vishnu, and from the lineage and the tradition, the presentation that I've grown up with in Bhakti. When we think of the avatars, we think of these Leela avatars, especially in terms of their Leela, as like objects of meditation or devotion, where the scholar was seeing them in a more Vedic way, as like, certainly it's true, but the avatars are coming to kind of to reestablish like cosmic balance, And so that's exactly what we see happening here, is that there was this horrible king. Because of the king, the relationship between humans and the earth became disturbed. It really became like truncated or like broken. And so now the earth is saying, it's been a long time since we had our cooperative thing working smoothly, right? So she's saying like the seeds, how does she say it? That the seeds are the grain seeds within me have certainly deteriorated. So now we got to reestablish. Now the earth is saying, I'm willing. Let's reestablish this cooperative kind of relationship. And now she's going to describe to the king how to make that happen. And it's spoken in unusual terminology, but it's interesting.
It's the original permaculturist. Okay, text 9 and 10. Oh, great hero, protector of living entities. Right, speaking to Maharaj Prithu. If you desire to relieve the living entities by supplying them sufficient grain, and if you desire to nourish them by taking milk from me, it's the earth speaking, you should make arrangements to bring a calf suitable for this purpose and a pot in which the milk can be kept, as well as a milkman to do the work. Since I will be very much affectionate towards my calf, your desire to make milk from me will be fulfilled. All right, so
what's going on?
What's good? This is like
There's an
analogy
allegorical thing going on.
An allegory here. Who is the milkman? Who will come and extract this from me, the earth planet? And because I will become affectionate, like a cow is affectionate to the calf, who will be affectionate to the earth, that will make me want to give back, another reciprocal relationship.
And so now what we're going to hear in the following verses is that one person after another, the king kind of chooses one person after another to serve as a particular calf to receive something particular from the earth.
So
You see what exactly that means? It's a little hard to say, but in other words, he's going to choose a representative.
the earth is a being, and therefore the earth needs a loving reciprocation. It's not like drilling isn't that calf, right?
Yeah,
It's like
it seems like it's more like, if I'm understanding this correctly, it may be like the king is going to choose different representatives to, I would assume, take responsibility for offering sacrifice to the earth.
all right.
You know, so like he's going to choose Swayambhuva Manu, he's going to choose Prahlad, he's going to go down a list of different people that step forward, and it seems like that the earth will look at them fondly, and that person will represent, you know, the general populace, and through that connection, through that personal connection, the earth we're going to reestablish this relationship again, and the earth is going to start to allegorically, you know, be milked, you know, begin to provide again.
Okay. My dear king, may I inform you that I have to make the entire surface of the globe level. This will help me, even when the rainy season is ceased. Rainfall comes by the mercy of King Indra. Rainfall will remain on the surface of the globe, always keeping the earth moistened, and thus it will be auspicious for all kinds of production. Okay, I'm lost in this allegory now, but
I mean, that's the practical thing, that flat land is good for grain.
Yeah, it's just like the permaculture of like Balinese, when you're dealing with high mountains, they make those tiers. Yeah. So the water gets hold so they can grow grains, and then it spills to the next tier. All the great sages.
You are such a permaculture expert.
Yeah, I am a permaculture. I'm an undercover permaculture fan.
Okay.
My guru is Ariana Lindbergh. All the great sages transform Brihaspati into a calf. So Brihaspati is the
you jumped ahead.
Did I jump ahead?
Yeah.
Others who are intelligent as King Prithu also took the essence.
You still jumped ahead.
After hearing the auspicious and pleasing words of the planet Earth, the king accepted them. He then transformed Swayambhuva Manu into a calf and milked all the herbs and grains from the earth in the form of a cow, keeping them in his cupped hands.
We would need more. I looked at Prabhupada's commentaries, and they're not going to, you know, let's flesh out all the.
Okay.
I don't know, but in any case,
Swayambhuva,
yeah, Manu becomes the calf, and he's going to approach the earth. He's going to represent, right? The earth is going to look upon, because he's such a deeply virtuous person, you know. So the king chooses Swayambhuva Manu to go to the earth, I assume as a representative of the general populace, you know, with offerings, you know, like let's reestablish, just like you want to reestablish, you know, you offer gifts, you share kind words, you know. Swayambhuva Manu somehow becomes that representative, and through him, herbs and grains come from the earth.
Yes.
The pot is his cupped hands. I don't understand specifically what that means, but
it's a lot of allegories. All the great sages transformed Brihaspati.
No. Text 13.
Others who were as intelligent as King Prithu also took the essence out of the earthly planet. Indeed, everyone took this opportunity to follow in the footsteps of King Prithu and get whatever he desired from planet Earth. All the great sages transformed Brihaspati into a calf.
Who's
Brihaspati? He's the guru of the demigods.
Okay.
And making the senses into a pot, they milked all kinds of Vedic knowledge to purify words, mind, and hearing.
Interesting, that's
right?
Coming from Earth too.
Yeah, and what does Vedic knowledge do? It purifies words, purifies the mind, and it purifies the hearing process. All the demigods made Indra, the king of heaven, into a calf. And from the earth, they milked the beverage soma, which is nectar. This is Joe Rogan that asked me about soma, remember?
Yeah.
He's like, well,
What about so? I knew he was going to go there too.
I know. You know, I think people think like soma, it must be some like, you know, magic mushroom. Thus they became very powerful.
It's not.
It's not. Thus they became very powerful into mental in mental speculation and bodily strength and sensual strength.
So, you know, the sages sent forth Brihaspati. The devas are sending forth Indra. You know, each one has a representative to connect with the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Now
The
the
inhabitants.
demons. Now the asuras. Another
The
community.
sons of, yeah, so there's a whole nother community here. The sons of Diti, these are the demons, transform Prahlad Maharaj, who was born in the demon family, into a calf. And they extracted various kinds of liquor and beer on tap from the earth. They
What
put
kinds
into
of beer?
what kinds?
They got Pabst Blue Ribbon. They got all kinds.
Pabst, which my dad drank Pabst.
Miller,
My dad drank all the cheap beer.
Rheingold.
Thomasic's like, here, check. Which they put into a pot made
What
of
was it?
iron.
What was it? I can't think of it now. Anyway, forget it. Not worth it.
I don't know.
Please keep going.
See, this is what we're talking about. These distracting
Schlitz, that's the one I was looking for.
memories.
Thank you, Jamie.
Schlitz.
Oh, Schaefer. Yeah, these are all the
Schaefer.
old.
These are distracting memories from the past. We were
That's
talking
right.
about that
Exactly.
earlier.
That's exactly right.
The inhabitants of Gandharva-loka and Apsara-loka made Vishvavasu into a calf.
Vishvavasu. Yeah.
Vishvavasu into a calf,
Vishvavasu.
and they drew milk into a lotus flower pot. I'd love to see that pot. The milk took the shape of sweet musical art and beauty. Interesting.
Okay.
The fortunate inhabitants of Pitri-loka, who
What's
preside
Pitri-loka?
over, that's the planet of the forefathers,
Mm-hmm.
and they preside over the funeral ceremonies, made Aryama into a calf. Right?
I don't know
10th
who
chapter
Aryama
game we
is.
play in the Bhagavad Gita of the forefathers. I am Aryama.
Okay. So he's the representative, and what did he get from the earth?
With great faith, they milked kavya. They milked kavya, food
Kavya is-
offered to the ancestors, into an unbaked earthen pot. So that's like type of offering you do to your ancestors in traditional Hindu families,
Okay.
because we have some great appreciation, not just for our parents and not just for our grandparents, but ancestors that have come down for millennia. And sometimes you'll see in Hindu households little pictures of their grandparents on the altar as well.
Mhm, yes, you do.
Because it's this type of deep appreciation that we don't just have what we have because we've worked so hard for it. We have what we have from generations of love trickling down, and therefore we have a debt. The
We're
devotee,
generations of love from Bayonne, New Jersey.
we're generations of, that's sort of like a Smashing Pumpkins type of band. Generations
least
of
it-
love.
At least a record, a title, an album title, right? Generations of
It's
Love.
the new Smashing Pumpkins record.
This is
Generations
the new
of
Shelter record called Generations of Love. What do you think?
I think pretty good.
Work on it.
A
Get
girl.
Farnell, you
Lisa
guys get
Tettle says a
together.
girl band.
Oh, good. That'd be a good girl band. Yeah.
Anyway, my point is that this is a reoccurring theme. Like, we're not in this alone. We are made up of the mercy of so many others. Huh?
Yeah.
Trickling
that's
down
it.
for generations.
Okay. I think we're done. I think we're running out of time. Although we did start a little late.
We started a little late, so I wasn't sweating it. Okay. Mara. Let's bring on Mara.
Yep.
You haven't said much this entire show, Mara. We haven't referred to you. We haven't made fun of your private school you went to or the
Put you on
field
the
hockey
spot.
team you were a captain. We didn't give you any quizzes. Give us some information, Mara.
All right, we got some
The
good
people want to
takeaways.
hear from you, Mara.
Yeah.
We all want to hear from you. You are like the earth,
Yeah.
and we are here
Milking you.
milking you for all of the wonderful information you're about to share.
All right, regular repetition of mantra makes mental pathways.
There you go.
Practice and detachment still the mind's vrittis.
Mm-hmm.
Maha Mantra is the core muscle memory exercise we should all develop.
Ooh, Milaki.
The core muscles, huh?
Core muscles, the core.
The core. Work out the core.
We've been practicing adharma and bad habits for lifetimes.
Many lifetimes.
Speak for yourself.
I am. I have been practicing that. Repetition is important for spiritual development to overcome distracted memories and tendencies.
That
for a t-shirt.
too big for a neck tattoo.
Yeah.
Too big for a neck tattoo.
I'm looking for a neck tattoo. Give me something
Okay.
good.
Through regulation, we develop freedom.
How about
What?
regulation equal free? Okay, I mean, let's try to tighten it up a little bit.
Saragrahi, the pious one, says Mara is bhumi, Kastuba is a calf, and Raghunath is a pot, a lotus pot.
Okay, there we go.
That's something a pious person would say. Okay, go on.
Engage your senses in devotion to the Supreme Being.
Not a tattoo. Give me a
All
neck
right, I got some
tattoo.
tattoos coming. Daily practices change your life.
Boom,
Okay.
right here, side of the neck.
Other side.
Mara's looking for a back piece. What do you got, people?
I think you're at that point, Raghunath, where you have enough tattoos where it just doesn't matter anymore, and you can
I've
just
hit
get
that
them
point where
really
it's like,
casually.
Give me whatever.
Just do
Give
it.
me whatever. You just go into the shop. Give me whatever.
All right. How about regulation creates sattva?
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, I suppose if you get regulated in something tamasic or rājasic, it might not.
it's still better than not unregulated tāmasic.
Is it?
Maybe. Isn't that just called
Okay, well,
addiction?
it's just-
I do heroin
Maybe.
every day, religiously.
Hey, it's getting real Sudvig now.
I used to just do it randomly.
Vedic knowledge purifies our words, mind, and hearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're having a
towards the end of the show.
we're having a love affair with divinity.
I like that.
Me too.
We're having a love affair. That's like a Morrissey song right there.
Yeah, well, you see, that's what I'm saying. That's what-
divinity. With divinity, a love affair. And it's going nowhere.
I
that
just
it?
don't get it. It does seem like satire to me.
It's
But
not.
I'm
It's
I'm
beautiful.
open. I'm open. I'm open.
Okay. Is that
All
it?
right, and
Mara?
we're made up of the mercy of others.
Made up of the mercy of others.
Essentially.
T-shirt.
Okay.
Right there. Mara, that's a huge back piece. Your first tattoo, Mara. A huge
Now-
back piece.
Before we get into anything else, I want to take note that we have Karuna doing some Odissi dance over here. Or
I
something
saw
like that.
her. She's trying to distract us with her Odissi dancing. And she did, actually. I
Karuna?
was watching her.
Attention, please.
Karina.
Over here. Yes, yes.
Start dancing.
We want to
Start
see.
dancing.
Can you do like the fundamental like Odissi? Like I know you do that Jagannath dance, right? Can we see that? Don't you stand like that? You don't know that? I thought that was the first thing they teach in
All right,
Odissi.
just do anything. Just do
Yeah,
anything.
then do anything. Here she goes. She's got that Odissi style. Oh, look at that. Oh,
Ooh.
she's good.
And only 8 years old and can build forts.
Whoa.
She's much
I'm
better
impressed.
than